Hello and welcome to Rolling with Two. I'm Will, and with me is the means to my production,
Sarah.
And today we're doing a two-player perspective and accessibility for Fantastic Factories. Sarah, tell us a little bit about this game.
All right. In Fantastic Factories, players compete to build the most efficient set of factories in the shortest time through dice placement, engine, and tableau building. So, Will, are there any changes for a two-player experience?
There are no changes in terms of rules. There are also no nanobots. So, no bot to worry about. Otherwise, it's pretty much, as for any player count, it's the same, including two players.
Right. And so the only issue we've ever seen is that the rows can get pretty stagnant. The good news is there is a mechanism in the game where you can pay resources to refresh the rows. So if things get too stagnant in a two-player game, somebody will eventually need to do something.
Yeah, it just feels a little costly because I'm paying a resource to refresh the row, which does help me at this point, but it could also help Sarah a lot too. So yeah, the costliness of having one person in charge of paying that resource to actually see more of the game can be a bit rough.
Yeah. It's just the way it's designed. So yeah. But yes, like you said, otherwise what it does well is it's generally considered multiplayer solitaire. I mean, you are drafting cards, so it's possible you can draft a card that the other person wants. Generally speaking, though, you're not going to do it in a purposeful, mean way. Mean way.
Yeah, there's not a lot in the way of hate drafting. I mean, you could play that way, but it will take an extra level of effort. And considering you never quite really know what the other player is going to be doing,
right?
That part is going to be a big waste of your time trying to figure out how can I hate draft.
Exactly. So that's pretty much it for a two-player experience. So let's move on to accessibility. Some of the challenges are that the two main resources in the game, energy and metal, are the exact same shape. They're both circles. So if you have severe vision issues like Will, you won't be able to tell them apart, except
you could just take them apart, set them aside on each side of your player board, keep them separate so you know which ones they are. Plus, these are fairly basic shapes that there are a ton of ways to get shaped versions of the meeples.
You could meeple source. Just look for either lightning bolts or energy, something to that effect. Metal too. I know the Game Crafter, since they're a source for parts for making prototypes in other games. So generally speaking, finding three-dimensional metal and a three-dimensional lightning bolt will be pretty easy to find if you want to, deluxify your game and upgrade it so that you can feel the difference.
Yeah, but personally, I've just been separating it with my player board being in the center, electricity to the left, metal to the right, and I haven't had any issues telling which one is which.
Right. And so other challenges, the cards that you get, the blueprints, are kept secret. The good news is, generally speaking, the information on the cards is in a good flow, easy to see, but if you have difficulty with small print or like Will, more severe vision issues, then you would need a assistive device to enlarge it.
Yeah, the good news is with an assistive device, when I look at it, everything is very high contrast, very clear in terms of its symbols and iconography, that I have no problem reading it. It's just blowing it up, making it bigger. So in that respect, I think colorblind people won't have any issue.
So that's going on to things this game does really well, iconography. So there's four main types. So there's this shovel. They're all white symbols on a colored background. So it's a white shovel on a pink background, this white cog on an orange background, a white wrench on a green background, and then a white hammer on a blue background. Those are the four types. They're all really well, high contrast. So yes, anyone who's just got colorblind issues isn't going to have a problem with that.
Yeah, and I find they actually use a fairly rich color, which gives a good contrast to that white shape.
Right. And I think one of Will's favorite aspects, the player boards have the recessed places for the dice.
Yeah, the dual layer player boards. So if you're trying to feel around where things go, it every spot has a spot for a dice.
So it makes it real easy.
And you know what you're doing. In fact, a lot of times I'll have to have Sarah's help managing things like my player board. This game, I don't have that issue because of the dual layer player board.
Right, because the top row is cards and the middle row is, energy, and the bottom row is metal. So it's very static on what they do, so he's pretty autonomous when it comes to manipulating that.
Yeah.
Which also then leads me to the dice. There are these fun colors, yellow, red, blue, and green. Each player gets a color. Granted, it doesn't really matter as long as you got 4 dice because your dice always stay on your board. So it doesn't really matter. And then there are these frosted white dice that you can obtain. They're neutral. Again, they're really easy to tell the difference. But yes, if it came down to it, you just need 4 dice, even if you're having issues with the colors. But I feel that they're, generally speaking, pretty good.
Yeah, if you have a 6-sided die that works well for you and 4 copies of them, just use that.
Yep.
You're fine.
Yep. And that's the other great thing is for these being pip dice, Will can also feel the pips.
Yes.
So again, he can act pretty autonomously when it comes to the work phase. For other tokens in the game, there are goods. The 1 is a single hex and the 5 is a 2 hexes put together. So these are very distinct. Also,
No, it's not a 5.
It's not.
No, it's just 2.
2. Sorry, I've got confused. I think I was thinking of a different game.
Yeah.
1s and 2s.
No, you don't have a weird denomination with this
Right.
game. You have 1s and you have 2s, and because one of the ways to end the game is to the first person to hit 12 or more production.
Yeah.
Will trigger the last round of the game to be played. So you don't have to have these astronomical denominations
Right.
of, oh, it's now 1,000 and this one's my 1 million chip. Yeah, none of that. Or it's not even trying to represent this is 1 million per parts per billion, that type of weird expression. This is 1s and 2s.
Yeah, it's very streamlined, distilled. So all these aspects make this a very accessible game. The only time, so the work phase, you do it simultaneously, and the only time Will bothers me to help is just to make sure he got the right card. Because sometimes he'll, check the cards on his closed circuit, but then by the time he gets here, maybe cards get, mixed up and he grabbed the wrong one. But otherwise, all these aspects make it really, really accessible for those with more severe vision issues. And it's fantastic for anybody with colorblind issues. And then for me, I also love the recessed board just because I'm klutzy and I just knock things over. So I hope more and more companies do the dual layer boards because it is not only a great accessibility tool, but it's just a good idea.
Yeah, for knocking things over. As it is, you still have to put dice on cards. That's probably
true.
The tricky thing.
That's the trickier part is on cards. But
yes.
Okay.
So, as far as a 2-player game, would you recommend this?
Yes, I would definitely recommend it. Again, you're going to have that minor issue of the rows getting a little stagnant and then someone's going to have to pay. So it's either just trying to do the best you can with what happens or eventually someone will cave in and refresh one of those rows. But otherwise, the 2-player experience is perfectly fine.
Same thing for me.
Okay.
Accessibility-wise, I definitely agree that it's perfectly fine for very accessible from its design to its implementation. Everything feels streamlined, very simple, very easy to understand. I don't see any accessibility issues that are...
You're just, if you, again, have problems with small print, not even small, it's not that small, but if you have issues reading because of your vision being severe, then you would need your assistive devices, but you're probably used to that already if you use devices.
All right. Well, that will do it for us here at Rolling with 2. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach us on the various social media platforms at
Rolling with 2, that's TWO. Please check us out on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. Please like and subscribe.
And why would you ever roll with just one when you can be rolling with 2?